الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. To proceed, to continue our explanation of the book al-Aqeedah al-Waasiteeyah Shaykh-ul-Islaam ibn Taymiyyah رحمه, as explained by Shaykh Muhammad Salih al-Uthaymeen رحمه. The point that we concluded upon in our previous lesson is addressing the issue of how we affect a reconciliation between 2 points. The first being where we affirm that Allah Azza wa Jalla, being unique with regards to al-Rububiyyah, His Lordship, from that is that He is unique with regards to being al-Khaliq, the Creator, and then al-Malik, the Owner. So if we therefore affirm that Allah Azza wa Jalla is unique with regards to being al-Malik, the Owner, and therefore al-Mulku, ownership, is for Allah Azza wa Jalla alone, how do we understand that Allah Azza wa Jalla Himself affirmed owners besides Him in Al-Quran? In Surah An-Nur, therefore, Allah Azza wa Jalla said, أَوْ مَا مَلَكْتُمْ مَفَاتِحَهُ, or that which you own in relation to its keys, meaning the aspects of creation that you own, such as houses and so on and so forth, the keys you use in order to enter them or open them, مَا مَلَكْتُمْ, you are the owners of those. Similarly, the ayah in Surah al-Mu'minun, where Allah Azza wa Jalla said, إِلَّا عَلَىٰ أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ فَإِنَّهُمْ غَيْرُ مَلُومِينَ, which is for their wives, أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ, or that which their right hand possesses, فَإِنَّهُمْ غَيْرُ مَلُومِينَ, then for that they have no blame upon them. Again, Allah Azza wa Jalla said, أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ, or that which their right hand possesses, meaning Allah Azza wa Jalla has affirmed that the right hand or a person can possess something in this dunya. Now, in order to effect a reconciliation between Allah being unique with regards to ownership and that mankind themselves are owners of matters, we do so upon 2 understandings. The first is that the ownership of a human being or somebody in creation is an ownership which is restricted and one which is limited. Why? Because a person may own, for example, that which they have. So they may own their own house or their own car or money and so on and so forth, but they do not own that which you are in possession of. And similarly, that which you have, that you are in possession of, another person does not have a claim or right of ownership over that. However, all of these matters, what you are in possession of and what I am and another person, all of them belong to Allah Azza wa Jalla, and therefore Allah's ownership is complete and it is perfect. The second matter which indicates the distinction between the ownership of Allah Azza wa Jalla and the ownership of creation is that a person is not allowed to take their possessions, their wealth, for example, and to dispose of it except in a manner which is in accordance with the Sharia, Islamic law. I cannot therefore use a single coin, a single pound, for example, and purchase with it £2. Why? Because that is a type of transaction which is impermissible in accordance with the deen of Allah Azza wa Jalla. So I'm not allowed to take my possessions and dispose of them in whatever manner I choose. I'm not allowed to destroy them, for example, or to cause their wastage, because that is impermissible according to the deen of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Similarly, my ownership is restricted. Why? Because if I have a friend or an associate and that individual is ill, I cannot say to him, Ibra, be well, and he becomes well. Or if there was somebody who was well, it wouldn't be possible for me to say to him, be ill, and he would become ill. So with relation to al-Qadr, the decree, and matters of pre-decree or predestination, I have no control or ownership of those matters. Only Allah Azza wa Jalla has the ability, if a slave is unwell, for him to say, be well, and the slave, the servant, becomes well. And similarly, only Allah Azza wa Jalla owns the ability to say to a slave who is well, become unwell, and so on and so forth. Therefore, my ownership and the ownership of creation is what we say qasir. It is restricted, whereas Allah Azza wa Jalla has the ability over all matters with regards to His creation. Similarly, in relation to a tadbir, how do we effect a reconciliation between affirming that Allah Azza wa Jalla is unique with regards to a tadbir, organizing the affairs of creation, and in relation to what a person may organize within the realms of his own home, or an individual who has a business organizes within his factory, or an individual who is responsible for a district or an area in his country. How do we effect a reconciliation between them upon the same two understandings or principles that we mentioned with regards to al-mulk, and that is that I may be responsible for organizing the affairs of my own home, but I'm not responsible and I have no authority or responsibility for organizing the affairs in your home, and vice versa. And in that way, my organizational ability or jurisdiction is restricted. Similarly, I'm not allowed to organize the affairs in my home except in a manner which is consistent with the Sharia of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Therefore, that concludes the discussion regarding Tawheed, al-Rububiyyah, and the three aspects of it, al-Khalqu, wal-Mulku, wa-Tadbir, and how we effect a reconciliation between Allah being unique with regards to these three matters, and how in creation there may be aspects of all three, al-Khalq, al-Mulk, and al-Tadbir, where an individual may say and can claim correctly, as we mentioned through the evidences, that I have a degree of ability to create, or a degree and ability of ownership, or a degree and ability of organization. Thereafter, Shaykh Muhammad bin Salih al-Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, he discusses the next category of Tawheed, which is called Taheed al-Uluhiyyah. Taheed al-Uluhiyyah, it relates to how Allah Azza wa Jalla is unique with regards to al-Ibadah, worship. So we affirm that Allah Azza wa Jalla is divine, that He is a God, the only God that is deserving of being worshipped. And therefore, we direct our worship to Allah Azza wa Jalla alone. That is why it is referred to as Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. And in relation to this category of a Tawheed, we affirm that an individual cannot be a worshipper except of Allah Azza wa Jalla alone. He cannot be a worshipper of an angel, nor a prophet, nor a pious individual, a wali, nor a scholar, nor a mother or a father, or any other aspect of creation. An individual can only be a worshipper of Allah Azza wa Jalla and direct his worship to Him. Therefore, we say that Allah is unique with regards to being worshipped, and that worship is based upon affirming His divine nature, which is a reason why He is the one who is singled out with regards to all of these actions. And for this reason, it is also referred to as Tawheedul Ibadah. And this is an important point, for some of the people become confused with regards to this category. In relation to Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, it is affirming that Allah is unique with regards to being divine. And therefore from that it stems the obligation upon creation to worship Him. When we talk about Tawheedul Ibadah, then it refers to how Allah Azza wa Jalla is unique, that all of worship should be directed to Him. So therefore, in summary, when this category of a Tawheed is connected to Allah, it is referred to as Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. When it is connected to al-Abd, the slave, then it is referred to as Tawheed al-Ubudiyyah or Tawheed Ibadah. Now, al-Ibadah worship is established upon Amrayni Adhimaini, which is two great and lofty principles. And they are the first, al-Mahabba, which is love, and the second is at-Ta'zeem, which is affirming the majestic nature of Allah Azza wa Jalla. So if we understand al-Mahabba to mean love, and at-Ta'zeem to affirm the majestic nature of Allah Azza wa Jalla, then that is how we will refer or understand these two terms, rather than referring back to them continuously as love and affirming the majestic nature of Allah Azza wa Jalla. We will refer to them as al-Mahabba and al-Ta'zeem. Now the evidence or the dalil that Allah Azza wa Jalla is worshipped upon al-Mahabba and al-Ta'zeem is the ayah in Surah Al-Anbiya, where Allah Azza wa Jalla said, إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا يُسَارِعُونَ فِي الْخَيْرَاتِ وَيَدْعُونَنَا رَغَبًا وَرَهَبًا. That indeed they used to hasten towards al-khayrat, good deeds. وَيَدْعُونَنَا, and they called upon us رَغَبًا وَرَهَبًا, and they called upon us with raghba and with rahaba, and those will be explained shortly. Therefore al-Mahabba, it is al-Raghba, and al-Ta'zeem is al-Rahba wal-Khawf, and fear. So we said that al-Ibadah is based upon al-Mahabba and al-Ta'zeem. The dalil for that is the ayah in Surah Al-Anbiya, where Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned that innahum, indeed those, and this ayah in Surah Al-Anbiya, Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned it after making reference to Zakaria and Yunus and Ayub alayhim salam, in addition to others. So that is why it is named Al-Anbiya, the prophets. So a number of prophets are mentioned in Surah Al-Anbiya, and Allah Azza wa Jalla speaks briefly, making reference to them. and specific favors that he bestowed upon them, or specific trials that they were subjected to. Then after making reference or mentioning of them, he then said, إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا يُسَارِعُونَ فِي الْخَيْرَاتِ, that they used to hasten towards good deeds, وَيَدْعُونَنَا رَغَبًا وَرَهَبًا, and they called upon us in this state of raghaba, that we said is al-mahabba, and rahaba, that we said is based upon a ta'zeem. So what therefore does raghaba mean and rahaba? Raghba in Arabic, it relates to yearning or longing for something. Rahaba is this awe, this state of fear and awe that you have for somebody who you have the greatest level of respect for. And coupled with it is al-khawf, fear. So raghaba is a yearning or longing for something out of love that somebody has. And al-rahaba is having fear based upon awe of someone. And in relation to this matter or this discussion, it is Allah Azza wa Jalla. So therefore, to summarize again, al-ibadah is founded upon al-mahabba and al-ta'zeem. Al-mahabba and ta'zeem are connected to raghba and rahba. The dalil for that is the ayah in Surah Al-Anbiya. Thereafter we know that al-ibadah, it is what we say al-awamir wal-nawahi. It is commands and prohibitions. Now, awamir, commands, they are founded upon a-raghba. And we said that a-raghba is having this yearning, this sense of longing in your heart for someone or something, or seeking a path to someone. In relation to the deen of Allah Azza wa Jalla, you worship Allah upon a-raghba and a-rahba. A-raghba, yearning and longing for that which Allah Azza wa Jalla has and for Him. So for him it is to meet Allah Azza wa Jalla, and what he has is his Jannah. Rahaba, having that awe and fear of Allah Azza wa Jalla, and it is the awe and fear of what Allah Azza wa Jalla has prepared should you disobey Him, and that is punishment in the fire. And that is why prohibitions and nawahi are founded upon at-ta'zeem and al-rahba, meaning that what causes you to perform that command, to follow that command, whatever it may be, is that yearning and longing that you have in your heart to meet Allah Azza wa Jalla and the reward that He has prepared for His believing slave. And what compels you or stops you from entering into the forbidden, that which Allah Azza wa Jalla has made prohibited, is that ta'zeem that you have in your heart for Allah Azza wa Jalla, affirming His majestic nature, glorifying Him, and having that rahba, having that fear and awe of Allah Azza wa Jalla, that stops you from committing that action, knowing that Allah Azza wa Jalla will hold you accountable for it, and that if you commit this, then the punishment that's awaiting you in the hereafter. That is how we understand worship as an introduction. That it is longing and yearning for that which Allah has, and it is that fear and awe that stops you from performing that action that Allah Azza wa Jalla has made forbidden. That is why the incident that Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned in Surah Yusuf regarding Yusuf alayhi salam, the Nabi of Allah, and what occurred with Imra'atu Aziz, the wife of Al-Aziz, the governor of Egypt at that time. Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned, وَلَقَدْ حَمَّتْ بِهِ وَحَمَّ بِهَا لولا رأى برهان ربي كذلك لنصرف عنه السوء والفحشاء. that Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned that وَلَقَدْ حَمَّتْ بِهِ وَحَمَّ بِهَا towards her. Now there's two opinions regarding this ayah. The first is that this was an inclination of the heart, which is natural within a human being, that she had a longing or a desire for Yusuf alayhi salam, and he responded. That's the first understanding. The second is that when Allah Azza wa Jalla said وَلَقَدْ حَمَّتْ بِهِ, that hamma here, it relates to how she was going to physically assault him, for him refusing her advance. And he was going to defend himself, which is why Allah said وَحَمَّ بِهَا. But that's a different discussion for tafsir. The point to note is that we translated it as, and she moved towards him and he moved towards her. لَوْلَا أَرَّأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّي. Had it not been that he رَأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّي, he saw the signs of his Lord. كَذَلِكَ لِنَصْرِفَ عَنْهُ السُّوءَ وَالْفَحْشَاءَ. And in that manner we removed from him as-su'a, evil, and al-fahsha, evil deeds, immorality. So the point to note, that had Yusuf alayhi salam not ra'a burhana rabbi, not seen the signs of his Lord, meaning this is what we're speaking about, the mahabba which you then have, which is a raghba, this longing and desire to meet Allah and to obtain that which He has, and the rahba, the fear and the awe that you have of Allah and the punishment that He has prepared for you. That had Yusuf alayhi salam not seen this, then he would have moved towards her and she would have moved towards him. But Allah Azza wa Jalla saved him from that su', evil, and from that immorality, for the reason that he observed the signs of Allah Azza wa Jalla based upon the raghba and rahaba. Therefore the point to note is that that's from the blessing of Allah Azza wa Jalla upon you, that when you move towards something which is impermissible, forbidden, you recognize that Allah Azza wa Jalla is in front of you. You recognize His signs. You have that feeling in your heart of affirming the majestic nature of Allah, and you glorify Him. Having that raghba in your heart for that which is with Allah, that stops you from performing that action. Similarly, if you're moving towards something which is forbidden, not only do you recognize in your heart that raghba, of yearning for that which Allah has, but you also have that feeling in your heart of al-rahba, of having fear and awe of Allah Azza wa Jalla, that then stops you from performing that action because of what He has prepared for the consequence of the one who does that deed. Which is why we worship Allah based upon a raghba and a rahba. So al-ibadah, to summarize therefore, is founded upon al-mahabba and ta'zeem. From al-mahabba and ta'zeem we have a raghba and a rahba, and the dalil for that is in Surah Al-Anbiya. However, what is the actual meaning of al-ibadah? Al-ibadah is applied to two matters, upon al-fi'lu wal-maf'ulu. And for those of you who study in Arabic, you're aware of what that means. Al-fi'lu is the action, wal-maf'ulu is the object that the action falls upon. So therefore al-ibadah is applied to al-fi'lu, the action, wal-maf'ulu, the object that the action falls upon. What does that mean? It means that a person, he worships Allah, and he does so with what we say at-tadhallul lillah. having this humility and being submissive to Allah Azza wa Jalla, in a state of mahabba and ta'zeem. So we've already mentioned this, that a person, he worships Allah Azza wa Jalla, and the state of his heart when he performs that act of worship, so we're talking about the state of his heart, is that it is in a state of a tadhallul, which means it submits to Allah. Why does it submit to Allah? Because it loves, it has al-mahabba and al-ta'zeem. That is for Allah Azza wa Jalla alone. To show that humility and to show that submissive nature is for Allah Azza wa Jalla alone. Why? Because Allah said, as mentioned in Surah Al-Munafiqun, وَلِلَّهِ الْإِزَّةُ وَلِرَسُولِهِ. So Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned that وَلِلَّهِ الْإِزَّةُ, that for Allah is al-izzah, وَلِرَسُولِهِ, and for His Messenger. Allah described that al-izzah is for Him. So when the Creator Azza wa Jalla is described with having honor, it's befitting for the slave therefore to turn towards Him in a state of humility where his heart submits to Allah Azza wa Jalla upon the basis of al-mahabba and al-ta'zeem. So in relation to al-fi'lu, when you're performing this action, your heart will be in this state that it is worshipping Allah, and you have al-mahabba and al-ta'zeem present within your heart. That is in relation to al-fi'lu, the action. But we said it also refers to al-maf'ulu. Al-maf'ulu is the object that the action falls upon. What does that mean? It means that we don't just worship Allah having a state of al-mahabba and ta'zeem in the heart, but that worship becomes manifest upon an object, doesn't it? So the prayer is an object that the worship becomes manifest in. The siyam, the fast during Ramadan and outside it, the zakah, the hajj, ad-du'a, and so on and so forth. All of these matters, they are a way in which that action of worship will become manifest. In addition to other acts of worship of the heart, such as at-tawakkul, and such as al-khashiyah, reliance, and having fear with the knowledge of Allah Azza wa Jalla. That is how we understand the definition of worship as mentioned by Shaykh-ul-Islaam ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, when he said that al-ibadatu ismun jami'un likulli ma yuhibbuhu Allah wa yarda. That al-ibadah, worship, is an ismun, a noun, jami'un, which is comprehensive, likulli ma yuhibbuhu Allah wa yarda, for every matter that Allah loves and is pleased with, min al-aqwali, from statements, wal a'amali, and actions, al-dhahirati wal batinati, that which is al-dhahira, that which is open, and that which is hidden. That is the definition that Shaykh-ul-Islaam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah mentioned regarding what al-ibadah is. That it's a comprehensive term that includes everything that Allah loves and is pleased with, from statement and action, that which is open, al-dhahira, and that which is hidden, al-batina. So as we mentioned therefore, that we know that actions are open and apparent, such as the prayer, such as sadaqah, or the payment of the zakah, such as the hajj, such as removing something from the road which will harm people, such as helping your brother lift his luggage as mentioned in the hadith, such as feeding others. That's all apparent, and we have a dalil for that. But also that which is hidden, that which nobody can see, and from that is a siyam, that none knows a person is fasting except Allah Azza wa Jalla. But other than that, it is having a tawakkul upon Allah Azza wa Jalla, true reliance and dependence upon Allah, that He will dispose of your affairs in the best way. It is having al-khashiyah, having fear based upon knowledge of Allah Azza wa Jalla, having al-mahabba in your heart of Allah. Those acts of worship are al-batina, are hidden. None knows about them except Allah Azza wa Jalla, and therefore we say that that is included in the definition of Shaykh-ul-Islaam ibn Taymiyyah from the actions of the heart, as opposed to the actions of the limbs, but all of them are included in that definition. Now, we want to conclude on that point, but before we do so, just to affirm or to summarize what we've mentioned, particularly the latter part of this lesson, because it can become slightly confusing. Why? Because we said that al-ibadah is founded upon al-mahabba and al-ta'zeem. We said al-mahabba is love, and al-ta'zeem is affirming the majestic nature of Allah or glorifying Him. But from that is these two other terms, al-raghba and al-rahba. Al-raghba, we said, is yearning or longing for that which is with Allah and Allah Azza wa Jalla Himself, and al-rahba is having the awe and the fear of Allah Azza wa Jalla. The dalil for that is the ayah in Surah Al-Anbiya. And upon this basis, we said that al-ibadah is, as we know, both commands and prohibitions. That which encourages you and motivates you and compels you to perform a command is a-raghba, yearning and longing for Allah, meeting Him on Yawm al-Qiyamah, looking at the face of Allah Azza wa Jalla, entering into His paradise that He has prepared. That is what compels a slave towards good deeds. That's why Allah said, إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا يُسَارِعُونَ فِي الْخَيْرَاتِ, that those were the ones who used to hasten towards good deeds, calling upon us raghaban wa rahaba, out of raghba and rahba. What causes the slave to avoid the prohibition is a rahba, having awe of Allah Azza wa Jalla, the type of awe and fear that is befitting only for Allah, because He is the one deserving of that, because He is the one who is unique with regards to Tawheed, al-Uluhiyyah. Once we've understand the basis of al-ibadah, that it is established upon al-mahabba and al-ta'zeem, then we know that al-ibadah itself becomes manifest in an action, which is worship present within the heart, and it becomes apparent with actions such as the fast and the prayer, something which is apparent or that which is hidden, such as a tawakkul, reliance, and al-khashiyah, having fear with the knowledge of Allah Azza wa Jalla. And we shall conclude on that point. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.